Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mayor and City Council combined meeting for Monday, August 17th, 2026. If you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. So please show Councilmember McCarron is absent tonight. We have Councilmember Collinock on virtual, and we have City Manager Jim W. on virtual. Proceeding forward to approval of minutes from July 8th, 2026 and July 13th, 2026 regular meetings. Any questions, comments, concerns from council? Looking for a motion in regards to that?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Looking for a second?
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have council member statement regarding conflicts of interest on agenda items. Would any council member like to make a statement tonight? Hearing none, I am proceeding forward. Public comment pertaining to agenda and non-agenda items. To comment on a specific agenda item after it has been discussed by the council, please sign up with the city clerk and you will be asked to come forward at the appropriate time. With that said, I will entertain public comment pertaining to agenda and non-agenda items from the audience. Would anybody like to go first? All good.
Is that for the public?
Yep, this is public comment. So, anybody from the audience?
Good evening, council and mayor. I'm just obviously going to talk about the meters that we had talked about last week. So I just had some comments that I was going to make. So last month at the workshop meeting, we were told that the research had been done for the town for the parking situation in the downtown Taneytown. It was based on the research, and based on that research, it was decided that the meters were not necessary. I would like to respond to those factors that the town said were used as a basis to remove the meters, because I believe many of the points expressed in the meeting seem to me to be fundamentally flawed. One of the factors at last month's meeting was that other area towns were prospering without meters, and the only example given by the town was that of Ellicott City. Although Ellicott City briefly bagged the meters in the downtown area because, in their words, there were complaints from the merchants and residents that the meters were confusing, unreliable, and detrimental to local businesses, I would like to point out that during that period when those meters were bagged in Ellicott City and the parking was free, that the 2-hour parking limit was still enforced by the town. And the meters in the downtown Ellicott City were then reinstalled in 2023 to, in the words of Ellicott City, to manage the demand and ensure space availability for visitors. In conclusion, that shows that not only the need not only to have time-restricted parking is absolutely necessary, but the way in which the time parking restricted should be easy to understand. Ellicott City found out the hard way that not having meters was not a successful way to have a vibrant downtown. Ellicott City, after experimenting with having meters and having no meters, came to the conclusion that the meters and the time limits were the most effective way for the downtown area to have accessible parking for their visitors. The second point brought up last month, was that when shopping at Walmart, the distance from the store to the parking spaces can amount to a city block or more. And so the logic was that the customer shopping in Taneytown should have no problem parking 1 or 2 blocks from the store that they want to enter. There's many flaws, errors with that logic. Number one, customers walk to and from the Walmart store. The Walmart customers do not need to cross a very heavily trafficked 2-lane road where the cars are traveling 30 or 40 miles an hour through the town. In Taneytown, it is like taking your life into your own hands when crossing the street. I have talked to many people that were nearly hit by cars crossing the street in Taneytown. The number 2 flaw in the Walmart logic is Walmart supply carts to their customers to easily wheel their purchases to their cars. Then after the customers have put the purchase in their cars, there are cart deposits throughout the parking lot. So obviously the town, Taneytown's not going to have any carts or cart dollies. And then number 3, Walmart has spent an enormous amount of money on the perceived convenience and design of their parking lots. The psychology of Walmart parking lots is defined by design illusions that minimize the perceived distance and auditory strategies that influence mood and behavior. Walmart's lots feel shorter than they are due to massive sight lines that provide clear views of the destination, unlike obstructed city streets. The environment is scaled around the car rather than the human, with tall lampposts and signage that minimize the perception of the lot's true size. Additionally, Walmart's dedicated parking reduces the frustration typically associated with walking long distances, making the journey feel quick and a logical errand rather than a marathon. Also, Walmart uses outdoor music to strategically create a welcoming atmosphere and deter crime. Upbeat, familiar tunes are played to make shoppers feel happy and relaxed before they enter, which helps shape brand identity and encourages customers to spend more time and money. So we can see that Walmart has spent a great deal of money for their customers to feel welcome and create the perception of convenient parking. The parking in downtown Taneytown uses none of the strategies that Walmart uses, and by removing the meters, by removing the meters and making parking even more inconvenient, Taneytown is doing the exact opposite of what Walmart spends considerable energy and expense to achieve with their parking. In conclusion, dodging cars and trying not to get hit while crossing the street in Taneytown does not create the same relaxing atmosphere for visitors and patrons that Walmart's parking lots endeavor to. The third point was, removing the meters down. Believe that the town said that the business owners believe that the parking meters are not doing what we think they are doing. What business owners think parking meters are doing is providing convenient parking for customers. The alternative being, without parking meters, people would park in parking spaces in front of their businesses and not move for days. There are numerous examples of people parking in the spots for long periods of time in front of businesses. I was unlucky enough to be in business during the streetscape renovations. There were Jersey walls and no parking on York Street for about 10 months. The coffee shop located at 1 Frederick Street, named 3 Fine Cups, went out of business, along with other downtown businesses during that time. The gym membership at 3 York Street decreased 40% during those 3 years of renovations. The print shop I owned was forced to deliver the majority of the jobs to customers because the customers complained there was nowhere to park. The walk-in decreased significantly, lowering our income, and the need to deliver jobs significantly increased our cost to do business. So I don't need to experiment or run a test to find how the lack of convenient parking will affect my business. I lived through almost a year with no convenient parking during the streetscape renovations. I know exactly how the lack of parking will affect my business, and every business owner in the downtown area will be affected the same. Let's see, no convenience. The fourth thing was that the town had sent out surveys asking people about the opinion of the downtown parking situation. The strange thing is that none of the business owners in the downtown area that I talked to received a survey. So it seems it would be difficult to have a valid research if the research does not include the people most affected by the parking situation. Tina has been doing business in downtown Taneytown for about 40 years. 40 years is more than maybe half the people sitting in front of me have been alive. No one sent her a survey about the parking meters. No one asked her her opinion about the parking meters. And like Tina, there are other business owners that have been in the downtown for many years. It seems somewhat unwise to be making decisions in relation to the downtown businesses without taking advantage of the library of knowledge that these many years of experience afforded these downtown business owners. And then just another note, with residential buildings and tenants, I know it's not always, doesn't always happen here in Taneytown, but normally residential buildings are required to have parking for the tenants. The downtown businesses rely almost entirely on street parking. So the residential building, the residences have potential other options, whereas the downtown businesses have, their only option is the street parking. So I appreciate your consideration with that.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
Good afternoon, evening. Keith Reed, I don't want to be redundant. I just would like to say that I'd like for the mayor and council to take this into consideration. I mean, I know the meters are already out, but before we pass something, as I stated in the past, you know, we have numerous businesses that are not open right now, and we have a lot of apartment people. I didn't know in the last whatever, since this has all started, hasn't been an issue, but I was in Manchester yesterday trying to get into one of the restaurants, and the streets along Main Street, the parking along Main Street was quite challenging. I thought the restaurant was going to be jam-packed, and there was hardly, you know, maybe 15 people in there. And I was like, where's all the cars? And they said, oh, they're in apartments up, you know, above the businesses. So just please take into consideration. I understand the meters are already out. You'd have to buy or put sensors, but they weren't enforced, and people didn't know they weren't being enforced until they were taken out. I mean, I'm in town all the time. I didn't know that the police weren't enforcing the meters until they took them out, and then understood that you're not going to enforce something that's not there. So thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment pertaining to agenda items, non-agenda items?
Just to continue with the parking, in a mature Main Street program, parking is one part of multi-layers of what this district could use. To support Mark's point, okay, the one business that we have that's on our property, we're not affected by parking because we have a parking lot and we have additional parking across the street, all right? But the residents that live next door to me, all right, I think there's 6 there. 3 of them park on the street, and they haven't moved their damn car. Haven't moved their car, all right? They don't work. I don't know what they do, all right? But the cars sit there, all right? Leaves Mark 2 parking spots for his customers. 2 parking spots, all right? This goes to the point about who are we really removing meters for, all right? Are you trying to create productivity, or are you trying to hinder it? And that's where your parking problem comes in, because it is filling up with residents, all right? And they never move their cars. Now, I don't know what the solution is going to be, because nobody seems to want to deal with it, all right? But this goes to a larger issue with no economic development, no historic Main Street organization, none of that. And that's all supposed to be a part of it. Now, I know streetscape, I've heard the horror stories, all right? And I get that. And nobody wants to go through that again. But right now, you got nothing. There's nothing. No program, no idea, all right? There are arguments both for and against having meters or removing meters. And there's good points on both sides. The problem that I have is that nobody did the due diligence to figure it out before they actually took a solution away. Do the due diligence. You're getting ready to talk about ADUs that talk about parking surveys and all these other things. Well, we're going to do that for that because that's going to get shoved down our throat. All right? Nothing we can do about that. But we've done nothing to help ourselves. This town is classically always wanting to isolate itself, you guys want to control everything, but you're not even doing the due diligence for that control.
Thank you. Any additional public comments pertaining to agenda or non-agenda items?
parking meters back. I work at Taneytown Mart, which is the new store right next to you guys, and I know that not having the meters has affected our business in the last 2 months greatly. Like he said, there's tenants parking there nonstop that don't move their cars for days on end, and it does affect our business. I have numerous customers that come on foot, and they tell me, you know, if there's no parking, we drive right past. We're gonna go to Sheetz, we're gonna go elsewhere, because they want more parking, and if it's all the tenants parking there, then we have nowhere, especially rainy days is another one, because of parking, you know what I mean? And if we don't litigate it somehow, fix it, you know what I mean? They're not gonna move their cars. I've had 2 tenants already tell me, the one just moved yesterday, but he was like, yeah, my car sat there for 2 weeks straight, and I never got a ticket, only on street cleaning day. So everybody in town knows that's the only day you're getting a ticket, you know what I mean? So everybody moves their car that day, which that's kind of sad, because then they're monopolizing the system, because then it's like, you know, okay, don't park there that day, but I can park there all day, all night, any other time. So I just think we should really put parking meters back. I think it enforce things a little bit better and help some of the stores that are downtown. So.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So I did just want to add one, or additional public comment pertaining to agenda items, non-agenda items? Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Clark. I'm the farmer at Ballinger Park property. And wanted to go through some things. Farmed that ground for about 11 years and never really had any problem up until last fall, and which was September of 25. Spraying in there. There was a complaint came through. Lorena had contacted us, or me, through email, said that she needed information of the, you know, what was sprayed there. So then, you know, we use a certified agronomist that goes out and does the scouting of what needs to be done out there, which they're out of Pennsylvania. They came down, did the spraying. I contacted Tony, the agronomist. He went ahead and sent all the information to you all. And then she had notified me about the selection, or the section 5 of the lease, about saying that I was supposed to get written permission. You know, 11 years ago when that lease was drawn up, I didn't pick up on it having to be a written permission. I mean, it basically states tenant shall not be permitted to apply any substance to the property, including manure and sludge, except commercial fertilizer without express written permission from the landlord. I took that as liquid manure, dairy waste, that kind of stuff. It did say substance, but I didn't pick up on it being herbicides, pesticides, stuff like that. So bottom line, we went 10 years, never had an issue until somebody complained. I guess Lorena picked it up when she read through the lease agreement. And so everything was fine. Came to April of this year, paid the rent, asked if Lorena was in. They said she was on medical leave. So I called and left a message on the 6th for Lorena to call me back. Didn't hear anything. Called again on the 13th. While everything else had been sprayed on my other property, I was waiting to talk to Lorena because I didn't want to go ahead and do any spraying without getting her permission or what I needed to do. Called again on the 13th, left a message. She called me back on the 13th. We talked. I said, what do you want me to do? Do you want to sit down with my agronomist? You want us to come up with a list of chemicals that we're going to use? Talked, you know, she had said she had her hip replaced and rough time for her, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, well, no, I said, you know, I'm in the hay business. I have to basically spray for broadleaf and noxious weeds to get that out of the hay, because no animals don't want to eat that. So I said, the agronomist I use is out of Pennsylvania. He can come down and talk to you. She said, no, I haven't got any feedback from the complainant from last fall, so go ahead and spray. Okay. Where it went wrong was I should have told her to go ahead and put it in writing and send it to me. So we went ahead and sprayed. I called my guy. He sprayed on the fertilized on the 15th. Went ahead and sprayed on the 17th. That evening, I get another email from Lorena stating that need to have list of all chemicals that was used on the Bollinger Park property. I turned it again over to my agronomist. He talked to Lorena. They came up with what he had on record was from year 23 on. In Maryland, you're only required to carry 2 years of application records or of chemical records. Pennsylvania is 3 years for commercial applicators. So he produced 3 years plus the prior year. So he gave you all 4 years of what we had used. I guess at that point you called the MDA, or Lorena or Jim called the MDA. They did an investigation, which I believe at some time, on May 1st, Lorena did send another email saying that she needed all the list of all 10 or 11 years. I don't have all 11 years going all the way back to 11. I don't keep that many years, because I'm only supposed to keep 2 years. But bottom line, you ended up getting 4 years. That's all we could produce to show you. But basically, at the end of the day, it's chemicals that are used to get the broadleaf out, noxious weeds. Basically, it's the same chemicals that people are using in their lawns. MDA reported back to my agronomist, which then he gave me a little follow-up. I didn't get any paperwork from you all or anything from the MDA. He more or less said that everything was fine, there was no violation. And the complainant was complaining about their well waters, possibly being contaminated. He more or less said there was no way that there was no setback requirement. So basically, we could have sprayed to the wellhead, or he could have sprayed to the wellhead, but it was about 23 feet off the wellhead. But for some reason, it keeps coming up about 30 feet away from spray to where their wellhead is. But basically, this spray, you can go right up to it. In moving forward, there is a possible solution that I've talked about, and I've talked about over with Jim I believe back in May or so. I'm fine with maybe coming out 30 more feet off the back of those houses and making that like a grass buffer that would not get any spray or fertilizer. I would go ahead and just mow it off when I come in to make my hay. Have to talk about an acreage reduction, because I wouldn't be farming it, more or less. But I did last fall spend a lot of money in setting a new hay field, which is there behind the houses, because I had to burn the field off to reset a hay field, because they only last about 3 to 4 years. So in closing, I ask that you would allow me to continue farming ground to the end of the lease term. You know, as I said, we could possibly come up with a good solution that works for everybody.
Let me let council consider that, and then when we get down to the Bollinger Park lease, if you don't mind sticking around, I'll probably have you come back to answer some council questions. Yep. Thank you. Any additional public comment pertaining to agenda or non-agenda items?
Can I make a comment on Mr. Clark's comments?
Can I wait for the Bollinger Park lease, just so we can tackle that all at once?
All right,
with
let's
council?
wait till
Yeah.
then.
That's what I'm going to wait for the parking meters, so we get to parking meters as well. Any additional public comment pertaining to agenda or non-agenda items?
Yeah, I got.
Sure.
Talk about the amendment for removal of office, from office. Just gonna make a simple comment, all right? The way it reads to me, sounds to me like we're just trying to make it harder for the people of the town to get rid of someone who they may find to be unacceptable. All right, we're raising the threshold for petitions, all right? And you're only gonna be thrown out if you're convicted of a crime, all right? That doesn't sound like a people first agenda. That sounds to me like people, well, you know what, we're just gonna make it hard. We're gonna do what we want, and we're gonna make it harder for people to get rid of us. Because that's the way it reads.
For reference,
That's the way it reads.
residents of Taneytown currently can't petition an elected official out of office until the council censures them first.
And that's what,
And-
and that's the point.
And that's-
That's the point. You guys are trying to switch the verbiage to make it harder for people to make that call. All right?
No, they
No,
don't have
currently
they don't
can't
have a
make that
chance.
call.
They don't
That's
have-
the
they don't have a
problem.
chance
That's
now.
what
So
we're
how,
changing.
you tell me. So maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. But are you trying to take the censure out?
Yes.
Or are you trying to put it in?
The censure is being removed, so that people can directly petition an elected official out of office.
All right, so I read that wrong.
Right now, you
I read
guys
that
don't
wrong.
have that right. We're giving you that right.
Okay, all right, my mistake. And the only other point I'll make, because this is between you and me with the campaign finance, all right? Federal law, there's a federal statute, all right? You can't ban anyone under 18 from participating in campaigns.
The federal statute is that under 18, you can't unless you're in a trust and donating from the trust.
Dude, this is a nuance, all right, that goes back from when you got elected, all right? You didn't like it, you didn't like the way I played, all right?
Hey, you wrote a singular check for
You didn't like-
$2,000 to
yeah,
a
that's
candidate
right.
when you can only do
And guess what?
$500 and you
your
separated
eth-
between 4
and
checks.
you lost 2 appeals, all right? And your ethics board backed that decision, okay? You pulled me in on an ethics thing and you lost. And you got hurt about it, all right?
Not heard about it, trying to correct that 2-year-old donating
You
to a
got hurt about
campaign.
it. You got hurt about it, all right? I mean, dude, see, here's your problem, man.
Mark,
You think you know everything, man. You've destroyed a lot of the infrastructure of this town because you think you know better than everybody else.
what infrastructure?
There's no economic development, no plan. There ain't even $1 in the budget for it.
What's
Okay.
changed from that? What's been destroyed from that?
You've got no Main Street. Your historic Main Street is gone.
There's no Main Street
It's
to begin
gone.
with.
Just so you're aware, we operate a business that's open 12 hours a day on Main Street.
Oh, dude, man, I'm not talking about trading
You
cards.
currently open- you currently operate none.
We're talking about a community project, something that dude, you're fancying yourself the mayor of the year of Carroll County, and every other town in this county is working harder than this one to create community. All right, Sykesville, national award. You don't see her marching around like she's something. They're just doing the stuff, and you are just destroying the stuff.
That's fine, Mark. Let me know when you open a business on Main Street.
You know what, bud? My business behind my house does just fine. And you know why I don't open up that building?
Tell me, Mark.
Because you guys have destroyed the infrastructure that we came here to be a part of.
That's a new excuse every year, Mark.
Now, buddy, you can talk all the shit you want.
I don't have
all
to.
But the
You're an
bottom
example
line
of
is,
it.
man, the bottom line is you are not what you want everybody to think you are.
That's fine, Mark. I'm a fraud. At least I got a business open. Thank you.
Oh, I mean, I'm the villain. I'm the money Yeah, but I'm still here, aren't I?
I've never said that about you.
Still here. Now, you and your little Facebook minions.
My Facebook minions. Mark, some of the people who post about you have their names on Facebook. I have no affiliation with them.
Buddy, there's 500,000 anonymouses out there. We all know who they are.
Okay, Mark. Thank you. Any additional public comment? Any additional public comment pertaining to agenda or non-agenda items? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Consideration and review. Would any members of council like to, do they need consideration or review on anything? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Resolution, ordinances, and agreements. Introduction. Ordinance 10-2026, accessory dwelling units, reintroduction. Any comments by council before I look for a motion?
That over, and I hope the red letters about the parking are not final red letters about the parking, because it's very weak. There's really nothing that can stop somebody from developing an existing, an auxiliary living unit and have to worry about parking. There's so many loopholes in that you could drive a truck through them. It needs to be much more defined than it is in the current ordinance.
Jim, did you have any comments on that?
Well, trying to adhere to the state's requirements, we can only require off-street parking if the city has studied parking and has determined that it's necessary. So that study is underway. I know the planning director has made some daytime rounds, and the police department is working on checking parking, what should I say, pressure or you know, where there's a lot of curbside parking in the evenings and where there's a lot of available parking in the evenings. So that study is going to determine which parts of the city are going to require parking for ADUs. But that's the only way we can really regulate the parking and still comply with the state's requirements.
Do you have any additional comments, council member?
No, I think it needs to be much more specific, much more defined. It's very general, and there's 20 ways to appeal your decision, whatever decision that is somebody wants, they can get.
You're absolutely correct. I've been watching a few other cities, and they're having all the same problems. The county has also brought up concerns about this. The parking studies are our only way to have some solution rather than no solution. Because essentially, I could just go ahead and I could split my property line in two, which is essentially what this is, without splitting it, and just double every home capacity within the same lot. And there's nothing that any town can do about the state mandate without some form of parking where we can then put some parameters. It's just
the only way we can control it. You're right.
Yeah. So it's not great, but we have
It's
some
something.
solution, more so than some other towns do, from what I was reading.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Looking for a motion in regards to introduction of ordinance 10-2026 accessory dwelling units.
Move to introduce ordinance 10, 2026.
Looking
Second.
second. Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carries. Up next, we have ordinance 11-2026 fiscal year 2026 budget amendment number 3. Any questions, comments, concerns by council? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion in regards to ordinance 11-2026 fiscal year 2026 budget amendment number 3.
I move to accept the budget amendment
Looking for a second.
or introduce.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, or concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carries. Up next, we have all those against signify by saying nay.
Everyone said yes, I thought.
Still got to go into that.
Okay, fair enough.
Carries. Up next, we have city manager report. Jim, you got anything?
Just a couple real quick things. Well, we just talked about these study for accessory dwelling units. Uh, uh, we did email out the latest draft of the site plan chapter. Hopefully able to put that in orders taken care of and get that in the packet for next month. No real movement on the DeLauder bankruptcy, Roberts Mill Road situation. The company's representative asked for some additional information that was provided by CDM Smith. And Memorial Drive is basically in the paving portion of the project, so that should be wrapping up very quickly. The last thing that I've got is that CDM Smith is developing a proposal for the design on the George and Street reconstruction that's in our capital improvement program. Really all I have, and if anybody has questions on that, I'd be happy to answer, or I'll wait for council reports in case there are questions there.
Any questions from council for the city manager?
How are we on our water usage on the weekends? Capacity concerns?
Jim?
Still seeing some spikes. We haven't run afoul of permit yet.
Thank you.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council for the city manager? Hearing none, I'm proceeding forward. Jim, was that it for department reports too, or did you have more stuff?
Nothing additional. If there are questions, I'll do my best to field them.
Any questions for the city manager on department reports? Hearing none, I'm proceeding forward. Old business, we have two charter resolution holds. We have charter resolution CR 2026-01, term limits, amendments to office, pending review, and we have charter resolution CR 2026-02, amendment to removal from office, pending review. I know it was just brought up. Did council have any questions, comments, concerns they want to talk about since it was brought up a minute ago?
Other than what I've said in the past, be very careful about changing the charter. And in particular, these two items are very suspect. I would encourage council to vote these down when they come to the vote.
Any additional comments, questions,
Can you remind
concerns?
me what you find objectionable about them?
Sorry, say that again, Nick.
I said, can you remind me what he finds objectionable about them? I don't remember.
Councilmember McCarron, what do you find objectionable about the two charter resolutions? Is there anything in particular?
Well, first of all, I don't think term limits are proper for a small town like us. We need to be encouraging folks to run for office, not discouraging folks to run for office. I think that an individual who is willing to devote time to the building up of Taneytown should have the opportunity to stay as long as people want to keep him in office. This might have some bearing, if we were looking at congressional term limits, I might be in favor of it. But from a municipal standpoint, it's just too hard to get qualified candidates to run for office. The example was our last election. We had 4 people run for office, and 3 seats available. So there's not a whole lot of folks that have the time, the energy, and the ability to devote what it takes to serve in municipal government. And I just don't think that's necessary. The amendment from removal of office, I agree with what Mark said a few minutes ago. I think we need to make sure that we have a pathway to remove an individual from office that is unqualified even after its election. And the process that we have in place is perfectly satisfactory. We're able to do that and with the least cost. And I would just recommend that we leave it like it is. I don't think it needs to be changed. We don't need to do that. There might be exceptions.
Just to comment again, what Mark was actually indicating, that he believes that there should be a pathway for the residents to remove an elected official. That's what this did essentially. So if you're in agreement with that, you're essentially in agreement with what we did. We allowed direct removal of office for residents, so it doesn't have to go to censure first.
Yeah, we still have the ability to do censure. That's not been removed.
And still have the ability to remove a council member if they're convicted of a crime, which was the same exact bar that was in the charter to begin with. So we haven't changed the bar. The bar is still there for council to be able to remove a council member. The only thing that has changed is that residents can directly petition a council member or mayor out of office, which I don't think anybody here has disagreed with.
Councilman McCarron, do you mind educating me? I know you've been in office for a minute on the last time we did recall.
Say that again.
When the last time we've recalled somebody in office, so I can go back to records and check the
It was
process.
back,
It'd be Frazier, right?
Donald Frazier was disrupting the council, probably back in the 90s, perhaps.
Okay. I know we're not voting on it tonight, but I just, this came in before I came in, so I
again,
wanted to research that.
It's a difficult process, even as it is written, but this makes it more difficult.
Maybe I'm not reading it.
I can't argue that it
It
makes it easier,
shouldn't be
not more
something
difficult.
that's easy to do.
I thought this opens up a second pathway.
This opens up a direct pathway for
So
residents.
this opens up
makes
more
it-
pathways. Right now, residents don't have a pathway to recall if they find the person objectionable. Like, we still hold all our same rights as members of council. We're just giving, like, the big change here is we're giving the people the ability to recall if they hate us.
My
Or if they-
only question is just the percentage, is it benchmark compared to the average voting percentage? Like, are we saying the percentage is higher than the average voter turnout, the same as the average voter turnout, or less than the average voter turnout?
It's higher. And that's how our petitions normally are. They're higher than the average voter turnout. So our petitions normally average in the 20% range is what you need to do for a petition. And again, I think we talked about that back when this was originally brought up, but whether it should be higher or lower. And I guess what it comes down to is, if there's a point where a council member or mayor is being removed, they should be, removed by either something egregious, or again, they're just not doing their job, right? I mean, 20% of people, if you can get 20% of people to sign on that somebody's not doing their job, that puts them to the recall. But even that petition alone with the 20% doesn't necessarily remove them from office. There's still a recall election after that, essentially, where you go to the ballot and you vote, yay and nay or whatever. So again, this alone doesn't necessarily just remove the person. They still have to go to the actual recall election. So you still have a whole other step even after getting the petition signed. But again, the idea is a direct corridor for residents to be able to petition elected officials out of office if they believe they're not being represented properly. And that's what we essentially did with this charter resolution. Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Nick, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Sounds good. Proceeding forward, Charter Article 1, I do got to apologize to council. I still got to get that over to you guys. I've just been kind of swamped this month. So again, we'll get you a better draft come September. Campaign finance, Jim, did we get something over to council on the changes for campaign finance? I know we had some initial mock-up.
I think we kind of stalled over the question of the age of limit on contributions
Shutting out pretty bad, Jim.
that we
I'm not sure if it's just me, but I can't
requested.
hear Jim.
So need to add, and then we can get the, I don't think we've circulated anything.
I guess my question, and again, if you can bring this to legal, Jim, would be if we can set the age for what you have.
We'll read the age limit idea for contributions that was recommended. Know that we,
You're cutting out a little bit, bud. Again, if you can, just bring it to Jay. Mike, again, I think my question mainly is that if we can set the age for what somebody needs to be to run for mayor, for instance, you have to be 21 years of age to run for mayor, why wouldn't we be able to set that for donations?
Yep. We'll run that by league.
Sounds good. Does council have any I mean, that's kind of my question on the age part is, again, if we can set the age for what you need to be to run for mayor and run for council, why wouldn't we be able to set that for the donation part?
So like right now, I could have all my kids donate?
That's kind of the issue, yeah. That's how you get around. So this is what happened is you can get around the campaign finance where it says one person can only donate $500 to a candidate. If you have kids or if you have businesses, you don't have to show a business license or anything. You can just say you have a business.
I know a business would be a separate legal entity, so there's
Oh,
that,
and
there's
this
that
is-
element.
and this
But
is the-
children would be, your money would be gifted from you, which means it's an extension
Yeah.
of you, unless, of course, you're saying that money came from another relative, but at that point, you might as well just donate from that relative direct to the campaign, no?
And so, well, this, again, going back to the federal statute, the federal statute actually says that you can, as a minor, donate, but it has to go through your trust. It's a whole separate thing you have to do for it.
Why do we
You
need to
can't
reform
just-
it if the federal government already has guidelines?
Because essentially, ethics says that if we don't have it on our books, then there's no rule
okay.
on it, essentially.
So
And
we can
that's
just
why we're
copy
talking
and
about
paste
it.
what the government is, but if we're not copying and pasting it, it's not officially done.
And that was, their argument was that the federal statute didn't apply.
I'd be curious what Jay thinks. I don't have the.
And that, I mean, that is,
One way or the
that
other.
is, Jim, if I'm recalling correctly, that is what Jay essentially stated, was that the federal statute didn't apply. That we have local jurisdiction over that kind of rule.
I
Just
believe
let us
that is
know what
correct, but I
special-
will verify with him.
Yep, sounds good.
Let us know what our special lawyer says.
Yeah. Again, see that on the age thing, because again, that's essentially how you get around it. I think the other part, and then talking with the city manager, was that if you're donating from a business entity, you should be able to, that should be able to be verified through SStat or some other legal entity that shows that that is actually a legal business. Because what basically happened before is you just put a bunch of names, and they're not registered in SStat.
Oh,
they're
you
not
didn't
registered-
like do a TIN verification?
No.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of the other issue, is it's allowed somebody to go around the campaign finance to where they donated more than $500 that you're allowed to donate to a candidate.
Remind me, why is there a cap of $500?
Essentially, so special interests can't just donate a bunch of money to candidates. So what happened, this actually happened during the Fraser era, was that outside organizations from outside of Taneytown, even outside Carroll County, were donated to a political candidate.
Yeah, but can't they just be a pact and they don't donate directly to the candidate, but they just sport through their own bucket of money, and then that technically isn't.
Even, I think ours even spells out the PAC, that you can only still do $500 through the PAC,
Okay.
if I'm recalling correctly from the campaign finance.
I'll read all of that myself, and then I'll wait to see what
Yeah,
Jay
it's
says.
something about donating directly, but like they can be issue oriented or something is the way you get around it. So what you do is you just align on all the issues and send it out based on that.
Okay.
But anyone, even the PAC, needs to still do the reporting.
Yeah, you're still supposed to, so if you donate over $250 to a candidate, you're still supposed to file a campaign finance form as the person who donated to that candidate. And that's something that we haven't seen as well in recent campaign elections. We've seen the candidate file them, but we haven't seen the person, the interested party who's making the donations file them. So again, there's a couple things that need to be cleaned up in there to where it either makes it transparent who's actually paying for that candidate to run, or again, if somebody, the other part was the self-finance, for instance. I know we talked about making sure when somebody comes in and runs this self-funded candidate that they know what that means.
You're supposed to set up your own separate account where that money goes.
Well, so normally for a self-funded candidate, you actually don't have to do a separate account. Because it's just you spending your own money, essentially. So the problem, though, comes is if somebody files as a self-funded candidate and then afterwards takes donations, which is something we saw in the previous election in 2025. Again, part of that is, again, educational material for people who are running for office, and part of that is just cleaning up, I guess, loopholes to get around campaign donations, essentially. Any additional comments,
And
questions,
something to
concerns?
keep in mind, please, Mr. Mayor, something to keep in mind here is the more complicated or restrictive you may make something, think about the Ethics Commission, who
Yeah,
is the
and the
body that
enforcement.
enforces this.
Yeah.
So if we're going to require things that need to be researched or verified, we need to think about who's going to do that as well.
And the mechanism to get it, yeah. Again, I know that was been an issue. Again, something for council to consider as well. Additional questions, comments, concerns by council on campaign finance? Hearing none, proceeding forward, Memorial Park expansion. Lorena, did you have any comments that you wanted to make tonight? Again, I know Councilmember Kalanock, he's been working, or he's looking to work with the county on some stuff, but other than that, we don't have much of an update on that, other than, again, it's kind of just sitting dead in the water currently. Additional comments, questions, concerns from council regarding Memorial Park expansion?
So we are exploring the county as a resource.
We are.
Shout
but
again
I'm-
today.
Yeah. Again, I will say it's a very small shot. So definitely don't think that, I just want council to know the expectations there is, again, the expectations currently is probably that's a no from the county, but again.
Miss all the shots you don't take?
Yeah, just to be really clear here, like, we're basically asking the county to give us like $3 million to finish funding the project, right? So it's not, it's a big ask.
Yep.
I know last time, Nick, Councilman Nick, you were looking at potentially getting approval for reaching out to Johnny O. Is that still on the table?
We talked with Councilmember Collinock, and again, he's reached, I think,
Yeah, I've reached out to county, I've reached out to Johnny O. I need to reach out to Johnny O again.
Gotcha. I know the probability of success is low, but I appreciate the effort you're making so far.
additional comments, questions, concerns from council on Memorial Park expansion? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Up next is parking meters. I guess I'll start us off. So, when it comes to parking meters, again, my thought process is still the same. Staff has been instructed to start putting up the free 2-hour parking signs. That's kind of the next step of what we have laid out. Again, all this is an iteration before we spend $70,000 on a parking solution. That's how all this began, is that we were going to spend $70,000 on a parking solution. Before I take anything from the audience, I'm going to let council go through and discuss one. Oh, my bad. So again, staff has been instructed to put out the free 2-hour parking signs before it's enforced. Again, there's a couple avenues we want to get to make sure that there is an issue before we spend $70,000 on a parking solution, and that's what started all this, just so everybody is aware, is the instruction from council has been to remove the parking meters. But we want something in place with that. It hasn't been just to leave them removed. We want to examine each step of the way to see what is the proper goal here. And again, before we spend $70,000 of taxpayers' money, we want to make sure that there is for sure an issue that can't be solved with 2-hour free parking signs, that can't be solved with other enforcement mechanisms that aren't just the parking. And again, my biggest thing with the parking meters is everybody has agreed that they were antiquated. I don't think there's a council member on here who hasn't agreed with that.
Is that 2-hour free parking, is that the same as 2-hour restricted parking?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
So within that 2-hour time frame, you have to move your vehicle.
Okay.
So again, that's also what I said at the last meeting, was that was our next step, and those signs are being rolled out by DPW. After we see how that's looking, the next step is going to be, if we need to increase our enforcement mechanisms, we are going to look at doing that on the city's end. If all of that is still not achieving the goal of, again, turnover parking, businesses making sure that they have parking available, that's when we'd come back to council and say, hey, the stuff that we have done is not working. We need to re-examine the $70,000 that we were looking to spend on like the Frog Park system, which was the laser parking metered system. For us, the biggest thing is, if we are going to have limited parking, we have to have an enforcement mechanism for it. We have to have a way to enforce that isn't just business owners calling and being like, hey, this guy's definitely been out here for over 2 hours, because then our guys can't just come out there and ticket them. They have to know they've been out there for over 2 hours. So that's kind of the limited scope there of what we have, is that we have only so many police officers, and their task and their ask from the residents has been to be out in the neighborhoods, making sure people aren't running stop signs, making sure people are minding the speed, and again, responding to calls on a daily basis. So what I will say is, again, this process has never been just to remove the parking meters. It has always been do step 1, do step 2, do step 3, and examine the results from each of those steps, and then make a calculated decision after that. So again, what started off was the discussion of whether we should go to the laser system. And again, council said, hey, before we do that, we need to make sure that there is a problem that has to be solved before we spend $70,000. So that is what we've ventured out into. So again, staff are working on the 2-hour free parking signs. They'll be rolling those out over the next couple weeks here. I think they got ordered last week, so they should start rolling out here soon. Again, if we're still seeing where people are still parking out there longer than the 2 hours, and we're not able to adequately enforce it with our current tools, we're going to add additional tools for enforcement. If those still aren't working, and again, the idea is to add cheaper tools before we go to the more expensive tools. If those cheaper tools still aren't working, our ask is going to be to come to the council and be like, hey, this is still all not working. We'd like you guys to entertain the laser system again, essentially. So again, it's a process, but it's a process before spending $70,000 of taxpayer money. So one thing I will say, and I do have to note this, is again, we have a lot of street parking in Taneytown. It may not be directly in front of your business, but there is a lot of street parking on Taneytown. And even one of the common core principles of Main Street development is that you still want people walking up and down your Main Street. So if the idea is we just want people to park directly in front of the business that they want to go into, that doesn't even achieve one of the core principles. So again, that's kind of my thing too, is there has to be an expectation that people are not going to be able to just always park in front of your business. And that could be true even if your business is open and you're having a busy day and you have 3 people parked in your parking spaces, they're going to have to park somewhere else to get to your businesses. So again, I want to also manage the expectation that there's no way we're going to keep a spot open for your business specifically at all points and times of the day, because that's not up to us. People are still allowed to park there. Residents, if they still want to use 2 hours, they can still park there. So again, just wanted to manage that expectation. Talk about the general process that we've been doing. Again, I'll open it up to council for questions, comments, concerns on the parking meters.
I can't remember if the 2-hour limit was linked to regular business hours, like an 8 to 6 or 9 to 6 kind of thing, or if it was just a hard 2 hours.
So currently we're rolling out 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Those have been clearly the busiest hours for businesses that we've seen at least. Again, I invite any business owners if they want to talk, if they think those hours need to be expanded or whatnot. But again, what we have told staff on the administrative end is that we want to see 10 to 5. That is what we want to see on the free 2-hour parking signs currently. Because even in the metered system, again, outside of the regular business hours, people were still allowed to park on those streets if they're residents after those regular business hours. So we're not looking to totally remove that, just so everybody is aware on that as well.
Do we have a list or an inventory of what the regular business hours are for the Main Street businesses?
No, but I will say there is 3 businesses open past 5 p.m. on Main Street. You have Tony Mart, you have No Anchovies, and you have Lucky Cat. Those are the 3 that I'm aware of that are open past 5 p.m. Earlier than 10 a.m., you're talking, again, same thing, a handful of businesses. So that's kind of the issue, right, is when it comes down to even all of this parking, it's only a limited amount of hours that we're seeing a problem, and it's only in specific areas as well. We're not seeing it throughout the entire parking area. And I'm sure everybody has looked up and down the street. A lot of the parking from basically City Hall, I would say down, is free and open most of the day. I'm there just about every day between being down there at the store and being up here. I see the parking in this general area. Most of the day it is free. But again, our heaviest trafficked areas would be, I'd say, that 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Regarding enforcement actions, so when this goes into effect, are we going to do fine, tow, both, or both?
So probably avoiding tow, it's going to be fines. Again, if we're at a point where we have fined somebody multiple times, the car's been there for, 6 months or whatever, and again, just throwing out a random number, at that point, if it has, 10 tickets on the windshield, yeah, it's probably going to tow. But again, we're not jumping straight to towing. We do have, the fine mechanism as well, so.
Why did we originally pick 2 hours of free parking? I only asked that because it seems like
That's the standard free parking for most places.
I only said that 'cause the places I've gone to, like Hagerstown and Gettysburg, they don't. You pretty much pay like $2.50 an hour for all the things. They all use apps though, so like I can just put on the app and extend whenever I need it. Something we ever explored was using like. I'm not trying to name drop a company because like they're.
Yeah. So we explored the app, and I'll say the comment back on the app was that it's ironic because again the comment for the other meters was that nobody was bringing change, and the other comment was that. Well, I don't want to have to bring out a phone on my app to be able to pay for parking. So,
I don't have quarters.
And again, this is just.
Well, I think those things are also more applicable to like a more like well-developed Main Street too, right? Like we don't have a super well-developed Main Street yet. We want to try and get there. So at the moment, in my mind, we should try and make things as easy as possible for people to go down there. So start free, and if our Main Street becomes bumping, then that's when you explore the stuff that I think you're talking about, Alex.
And that's kind of the feedback I've had from residents is that why am I being charged for parking that is relatively open most of the time? And like you said, Nick, again, this is something we've stated from the beginning here is that if we are seeing a problem, we will identify the problem, we will address it, but we shouldn't just be whacking at problems that don't necessarily exist currently.
Yeah, that's right. When we do this, so you said, not going to do towing unless it's kind of an extreme example. So like, do we need to think about adding the tow if a person's gotten, I don't know, arbitrary number, but like 10 tickets, say, like, whether they're paid or unpaid, but if somebody's a repeat offender over any given period of time, should then the next, I guess, punishment or in this situation be a tow?
So
That's in this hypothetical situation, right? Like the person
Yeah.
obviously doesn't care about getting fined, paying the fines or whatever. So do we
So-
think about upping the ante?
We'd have to refer back to the code essentially for what we're allowed to do.
Yep. Which is why I'm
and-
bringing this up.
Yeah, and again, there is I don't remember the exact details off the top of my head, but essentially on any street in Taneytown, there already is a parking limit. You can't park on any street in Taneytown over a certain period of time. So we already have like a street parking limit, and then we have the ability to cite that, but then there's a ramp up, and I can't remember if it's like 2 or 3 tickets before you get to tow. But I'm pretty sure there's a ticket, unless it's, yeah. Unless it's an obstruction or something like that. So, yeah, unless it's a danger and obstruction, you have to wait till you get to the certain threshold. And I thought it was 2 citations, and they have to be unpaid for 90 days or something like that. It's pretty, again, I don't know specifically, but I remember there's a part in there that says they have to be unpaid for a certain amount of time before you can even get to the tow part. So again, we can always look to address that with council as well, and maybe make that stricter. But what we have to follow, especially at the police department before they tow anybody, would have to be those guidelines on that.
Sorry, and these guidelines are ordinance or they're?
Yeah, they're ordinance.
Can, after this meeting or tomorrow,
Yeah,
whenever.
I can send you the.
Yeah, because I don't remember this being brought up yet, or it hasn't been brought up.
We discussed it very briefly when we were talking about issues on street parking with Roberts Mill, but this would have been last year, and it was very briefly. But I'll send you over the section that I'm talking about, because technically it's what applies to even the Main Street section currently.
Cool, thank you much.
Mr. Mayor, that's 19315, impoundment for unsatisfied citations.
Okay.
So that's been the law for quite some time.
Yeah, that's been there
So-
for a while, untouched.
3 or more unpaid citations for a period of 30 days or more has elapsed. So that's the current rule.
Okay, nice. Yeah, again, I knew that there was some kind of day for the citation. I knew there was a certain amount of citations. I appreciate that,
So
Jim.
what I'm kind of asking then, I guess, is like, do we make a special carve out for the Main Street district that says something to the effect of, if you've had X number of citations, no more citations. Now every infraction is a tow.
I think the problem comes.
We could certainly,
I'll let you go, Jim.
I think that we need to have some consistency in the code. I don't think that I don't think having a different policy for a different part of the city is going to help with enforcement.
I think the other problem too comes again is if you've rectified the citation, can you really say from here on out you're just going to keep getting towed? Tough one. I don't know, Jim. Can you follow up with Jay on that when you get a chance, and the police department as well? Again, maybe.
We'll
And
inquire.
I agree on the consistency is the kind of the
No,
other
I'm not
issue.
saying that we do this.
Yeah, it's just.
As an idea, because,
Yeah, I just want to make sure we legally
have
can
escalated,
before we even consider it that we legally can. My only worry is, again, if you've paid your citation, can further enforcement jump straight to tow? Jesse, what are your? Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear him. Is he at the mic?
All right, Jesse, do you mind coming up? Yeah.
I am keen on hearing Jesse's opinion on this.
There's just a lot to consider. We really need to sit down and have a conversation about this where, as right now, there is something in place where it's 3 or more unpaid citations and it has to be a certain amount of time, or unregistered vehicles that we could remove from downtown city limits. So it's something that we're gonna have to sit down and collectively agree on something to enforce.
I guess I'm not quite clear. I'm rereading, there's a whole ordinance on it for restricting parking time. It just says, "It shall be unlawful for any person to cause, allow, permit, suffer any vehicle registered in the name or operated by such person to remain at a parking meter in violation and in any event longer than 2 consecutive hours following the offense. The police department may cause the offending vehicle to be towed and stored at the owner's expense. The owners of the vehicle shall also be subject to penalties of this article." That's what it says. I don't see anything about recurring. It sounds
So
like you
here-
can just tow it if it's more than 2 hours.
That's for the
issue.
that's for the parking meters. What we're gonna be referring to is the actual parking ordinance for towing them, because again, we don't have meters, so.
Oh, so once you got
So
rid of the
again,
meters, you're
yeah.
getting rid of this.
What we'd refer back to is the actual 2-hour parking. And that's why I'm saying you go back to the parking ordinance rather than the actual parking meter ordinance, because that's what we fall back to now. Because again, there is still something in the regular parking ordinance for street parking on city streets, but.
I believe that says 30 minutes.
Yeah, and again, it does allow us to,
Well, but the whole point of all of this, I thought, was basically to try and do a parking management solution for the downtown Main Street area, right? So like, not all parking is going to,
yeah.
apply, right? Like,
And I think
this is a special carve out.
At some point, I think we go back to basically, again, if there is no more parking meters, we need to change the parking meter section, right? So
Oh, yeah,
again, I do agree with what you're saying. I think
Done
that's
now.
I think that's when we do it essentially, is when we go back and we're like, hey, it's time to address the parking meter section. That's when we do those carve outs essentially. But again, I'm not sure if we're necessarily
that-
at that yet. Because again, the question comes down to.
That code
do we-
language,
Go ahead, Jim.
the language in the code can be modified so that rather than referring to the meters, it can be basically in accordance with any posted
Posted sign, yeah.
parking restrictions, any signage. So
Yep.
So if you change it with that, and if I understood what Alex was saying correctly, then basically we can have people towed if they're 2 hours over the 2-hour limit that we're posting, right?
Yeah, that would allow you to do the immediate tow without the citation.
Yeah, which is worse than what I was just.
Yeah, I was like, can we find them before we just go right to towing them?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's what I mean. At some point, we're going to have to refer back to the parking meter ordinance, and we're going to have to change that. But again, I'm not sure if we're necessarily there. Because we haven't decided on what the finale is. When we're at the point where we're like, hey, okay, the 2 hour, is working and everything like that, I think that's when we go back and address it. Or again, if we're at the point where we're like, hey, we need something more, we need something beefier, we need to do the laser designated system, then we're gonna have to edit that code anyways, because it's gonna be, based off the legal guidance that we have from that company and how it should be enforced through there. So again, I don't think we're necessarily at that step yet. But yes, it is something that is going to have to be addressed at some point. Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council regarding parking meters? If council will let me entertain public comment, I'm going to entertain public comment. Does anybody have any additional public comment based off of what I just said, what council just said here?
I guess, I respect anybody to park directly in front of my business. As long as there's convenient parking, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with, a 2-hour restriction, that's fine. I mean, I guess my thought was if there's meters and the meter's not paid, there's 0 minutes on it, the police officer comes and gives a ticket. Whereas now, so I know that's not the best work for a police officer. So it's kind of, I know that's, something they shouldn't be really spending a lot of time on. But now it seems like without meters, not only does he has to come and see he has to come the first time to see if they're there, because he has to have proof that he's he's seen them twice in longer than 2 hours. So then, for instance, if a shop sees them and calls the police officer, and then they come out and see they're there, then they'd have to come back again 2 hours later to see if they're still there. So it seems like to me it's more work for police officers. I mean, you know, I'm fine with trying new things. I think we need a 2-hour restriction so people aren't there for 48 straight hours. But it seems like to me it's almost more work for the police officer. And then who would be sort of, you don't really want the police officers to be enforcing this and spending their time on it. So then is it up to the shop owner to be calling the police officers if somebody's sitting there for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, or whatever?
Parking meters too.
And this is the problem with the parking meters essentially, is that we pay the officers around $100,000 to, their salaries, pensions, everything like that. It doesn't really make sense for us to have somebody do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But the thing is, now they have to come twice.
and this
With
is-
the meters, they come once. Now they have to come twice.
And that's why we're moving to the next step, which is the
Okay.
signs. So let's see what the signs do. And
Okay.
again, if we're still seeing the issue with the signs there, then we're going to move on to a different type of enforcement.
Okay.
And when we get to that point, again, we'll notify shop owners, because we've had some preliminary talks to the police department of what that looks like. But again, we're not at that step yet. What we want to do is we want to see what effect the signs have first.
So is it up to the business owners if somebody's abusing it and there for more than 2 hours, it's up to the business owners to call the police officers?
I'd say so. So our code enforcement is complaint driven. So
Okay.
again, the
So that's the
complaint.
way it would
It was
work.
with the
Yeah,
parking
that's-
meters too.
Okay.
Like
That's how
that's
it,
not changing.
go ahead, Nick.
Oh, no, I was just saying, it's always been complaint
Yeah,
driven.
even with the parking meters, it was.
It's like y'all still would have had to call the police, who would have had to come out and do the same thing. So like none of that is really changing.
Okay, I appreciate it, thanks.
Yeah, because I'm probably the main caller on it. When I see the big commercial vehicles parked in the residential areas on the streets, I have to call it in. So they're not patrolling particularly for that.
Just
In the past, they had stopped by when they, I guess, had free time, or maybe they just noticed when they were driving by. Because I mean, I've never personally called police officers to come and ticket anybody, and people on our street have gotten tickets. Well, maybe somebody else called.
And I will say, while you might not be the one who calls, we do get a decent amount of calls for people to come and check it out.
I just assumed the police officers when they had.
But again, for the most part, when we do code enforcement here in Taneytown, it is complaint driven. We're not normally just driving around looking to cite people.
I didn't know if they were just driving down the road and they saw, the red flag or whatever, and then they would stop.
Yeah, I think another problem, we're experiencing is that, even if you look at the statistics for our police department, the citations we're issuing and stuff like that, we've doubled from 2023. I mean, again, the amount of complaints, the amount of citations we're fielding email in the police departments in has significantly skyrocketed, and the expectations of the residents is that our officers are in neighborhoods, that our officers are on the streets issuing citations to speeding cars and stuff like that. That's been one of the major concerns of the residency here. So again, I would say that, and again, it's not that it's taken a back seat, it's just gone more back towards the complaint-driven system that we have for all of our other code enforcement. And that's mainly because, again, our officers, the expectation of residency is that they're out there citing speeders, essentially. And again, not only speeders, but also handling the other variety of calls that we get throughout the day. And again, there's been the suggestion, of whether we do a meter maid, for instance. Well, now you're spending money on a direct employee just to go monitor meters that normally have I'm going to tell you, when a customer gets a parking citation, I don't think it particularly helps the business. And again, we've done the parking passes, for instance. But even when we did the parking passes, one thing we found was that some business owners were using the parking passes to park their own vehicles in the parking spots. And some people were not actually fielding the parking passes. People were just making copies of parking passes. So again, we're looking for a system that works for both the residency and the business owners. And that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to find that middle ground between it. Any additional public comment?
Got to be on the mic. We've got the remote people.
Kind of what you were saying with parking passes, how does that work? Because if I'm working an 8-hour shift and it's a 2-hour parking limit, do I need to go move my car constantly, or how do we do that then?
And so that's kind of the other thing is, I will say, not in spoken agreements, one of the things that have been talked about with the business owners is whether business owners should be parking in the spaces that they already are saying that nobody else should be parking in.
Well, I usually don't. I kind of park across the street and down on good ways and leave, adequate parking.
But that's
So
essentially what we were seeing is that we were having business owners who were using those same spots that they were saying that they wanted for their customers.
Absolutely, yeah, and you can't.
That didn't look good for our residents who, even though, there's apartments and whatnot, they are still entitled to a level of parking as well. I mean,
Absolutely,
it's their towns. So again, that didn't bode over well. So again, we're trying to find that clear middle ground between it all.
Yeah, to me, the whole issue is that we're trying to make sure we create turnover during normal business hours, so customers primarily can park there, so they can go to, your guys' businesses, but, you can't do that if people are there, 8, 10, 12 hours. Unless it's overnight, of course, and you guys aren't open, so.
Thank you. Any additional public comment before I head on to the next item? Hearing none, I am proceeding forward. Down to new business, monthly financial report. Any questions, comments, concerns from council?
I think I asked for this last month maybe, but can we start having a note with our cash reserves and the different funds?
Jim, if you don't mind following up with Barry on that. I think I do remember the council member asking. Yep. Have a good one. Any additional comments, questions, concerns on monthly financial reports? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion in regard to it. Should be a motion to approve or deny.
Motion to approve the financial reports.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have accounts payables. Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Hearing none, looking for a motion in regard to that.
Motion to approve.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have impact fee funding model. So again, you guys should have received a rather detailed email or a little packet. One of the things we've talked about is making sure that our impact fees are relevant to the increased expectation that I would say is our park system, right? That's the best way to put it. I guess, again, not looking for this, there's nothing like for adoption or anything like that. We're just looking for input from council currently.
Math isn't mathing for me. Your $1,600 proposed thing generates 1.3, I'll just round down, 1.3 million, but expenditures are expected to be 1.9, so I'm trying to figure out what we're doing to come up with a shortfall if we're using $1,600 from 1,000.
I think
Mind you, that's just me taking 8.8 minus 6.9.
I think the problem is that in general, the impact fee model doesn't work.
I need to move to restricted.
We should probably be looking at some form of impact plus.
Be a blended model.
That
Yeah,
way
it has to be a hybrid model.
that way we get the
Impact
impact
fees are
fee.
important, but
I'm curious how these other municipalities, or if these other municipalities are doing some form of a blend, or how they're doing it. Excuse me. So they. Yeah, because like Mount Airy's doing some extra stuff in there. I mean, so there are different ways that people that municipalities are putting in per either on a yearly basis or per new dwelling.
Mayor, if I may. So I agree with others who have said that we shouldn't be relying just on new growth park impact fees or impact fees for anything, be that police, which I think right now is very low at $100 per RDU. That probably should be increased. But when new growth does come down the pike, great. I think we should go ahead and get these park impact fee, well, all impact fees increased. Definitely park, definitely police, I think needs to be increased, but that's, not my purview. For when that growth does come in, because that will help offset some of the expenses. However, for sustainability and to cover that shortfall, as you stated, Councilmember Kelly, yeah, that's just not going to cut it, and we cannot continually rely on new growth to fund our capital improvements in our parks and our capital improvements for police or what have you. We do need some kind of model, whether it's, I don't know, a certain percentage of the tax levy or some kind of funding model that's going to help us perpetuate the amenities and the sustainability of our parks and our park system. So if we continue to rely on just impact fees that are entailed with new growth, then we're going to be constantly relying on new growth to fund everything. And then it's just a vicious cycle, because obviously the demands that new growth is going to put on the town, the city, the parks, the police department, what have you, it just goes around and around. So I'm not sure what the solution is as far as alternative funding, but at least the park impact fee and perhaps the police impact fee could be increased for when that new growth does come down the road.
And I know, again, this has been a talk with the police department as well. I know Mackenzie's reached out that way.
Right.
So again, I actually think what I'm going to ask of council, because again, I think we're going to go in kind of circles tonight, is to kind of digest what's been sent over, and again, send email feedback on suggestions or takes you might have. September, at the workshop in September, we're going to come back to council with, again, some either modeled examples of something that might be a little bit more than what we currently have, or again, based off a council member suggestion. Does that sound all right with council members? Nick, good with that?
Yeah, did I send, I did a kind of a simple model last month. Did I send that to you guys? I know I showed it to Lorena, but I don't know if I sent it around to anybody else.
I don't remember seeing it.
I don't remember seeing it on my end. I mean, you might have sent it to Lorraine. I might have been copied on it. That might have been the case, but I'm going to tell you, I'm a bit behind on emails. So,
Yeah,
if you want to send that out to council,
always
just for
send
thought.
it to everybody. That one that I did was just for parks though, because I don't know what the general needs of police
Yeah.
are when it comes to funding. So I mean, I could probably do something simple like that too. I just need to know what the cash flows are basically.
Yeah, I'll try to have them get something over to you, Mackenzie, on the police part. Yeah, if you don't mind, send that out to council. Again, something for them to digest between now and September. But this is going to be a workshop item, and then council is going to have to try to make a decision in September, just so they're aware, because there's legislation that goes into place October 1st that basically locks in developments with whatever is basically on the books at the time. So just so council's aware, they got to be thinking on this stuff over the next month.
Kind of adjacent to that, is there any updates on the DARA stuff that we were discussing a month or two ago?
We had a meeting with the developer about a week ago. They provided some initial comments back, and that's going back and forth between staff right now. There's another meeting that's supposed to happen at the end of the month between me, staff, and developers. From that, the goal is to have an additional conversation with council in September.
I have like a rough idea of a time frame, because that could also impact, like, obviously people want impact fees because it's the growth paying for it, but we as a town have to start paying for it, like, ourselves. But like, if we also know when that project would come to fruition, that could kind of potentially influence our structuring numbers.
And I'll tell you, that's kind of what I'm indicating, is that if council hasn't changed this by October 1st, they get to just go off of the old numbers, even if you change them after that.
Oh, okay.
So that's the state legislation essentially is saying that developers now just have to go with whatever the rules were at the time that the development was submitted starting October 1st of this year. That's state legislation. So again, just be aware of that for council, is that this, yeah, you guys gotta,
Should we, I don't know if we're able to do this, should we entertain a second workshop, like, so we can have one or two to digest
can.
something this important?
can understand as many
Something
workshops
that
as
I've
council wants.
brought up to you a couple of times, I'd like to make sure that, we're getting things from developers like tax receipts per acre or whatever. I've know I've talked to you about this a couple of times, Chris.
Yep.
Is that something that we've done yet? Like, is that?
That's something, and I might refer to Jim on this, that might be something that can be incorporated directly into the DAR as well. Jim, am I correct on that?
It needs to, because that has direct implications on our ability to fund our neighborhoods, our parks, I mean, everything really. So if, for example, the tax receipts for a neighborhood that's been built can't even fund its own infrastructure costs, then that's a major problem, right? And I know for a fact that there are neighborhoods that don't do that, and I can show the math on that.
And that's, again, I know we've had this conversation before, that's been kind of the problem with development in Taneytown, is that we know that development doesn't pay for itself. We've known that. And again,
that's the basic hurdle rate, just being able to pay for itself, not just like, can it pay for, help
Yeah,
fund
the additional
police,
amenities
help
and
fund
whatnot.
parks, like,
Yeah.
you know, the basic workings of actual government.
I'll talk with Jim on it and see where that may be best incorporated. Again, whether that's in, and again, technically council, just to give council its options, council can still emergency adopt ordinances. There's a way for council to do that and stuff like that. So again, I'll have discussions with staff at the September workshop where, we're gonna have some additional conversations about, again, whether we need to do additional workshops through September to make sure we're meeting those deadlines essentially.
I mean, at a minimum, I think we need to try and get something like this in as soon as possible, because, I mean, that should be an ordinance or whatever form it needs to be in regardless.
Yeah, I'd say
And that's our basic ability to fund ourselves.
ordinance is going to be your most binding option for council on it. Let me talk with Jim and staff to see if we can't get something drafted. And I'll have them kind of try to expedite that for September.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does that mean we have to look at all of the impact fees then at that point?
So I'd say, again, the biggest ones are going to be the police department and the parks.
And what I was just talking about was separate to impact fees. Impact fees are basically, we can build a new thing, but then the funding model is.
Yeah, you're talking about the continuation of the funding.
Perpetuity.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about on that. I know we've discussed before.
And this problem that we're facing, I mean, you can look it up, infrastructure that was built, 50 years ago using the suburban model. It's not exclusive to our
No, it
town that's
isn't.
having this problem.
It's
Countrywide. Cities all over the country are having this issue. It's
Correct.
It's been a time bomb for a long time, and lots of places are having to pay the piper, and it's why a lot of cities are leading into decline, because they've chosen for 60 years to develop in very particular ways, but those ways are super expensive and/or the most expensive they could possibly be, and there was never any chance that they could fund themselves and maintain it.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns from council regarding the impact fee funding model? Again, we'll try to get additional stuff out to you guys as fast as we can between now and the September workshop. Anticipate a poll going out from Mackenzie on a second workshop for September.
Thank you.
Again, any additional comments, questions, concerns before I proceed forward? Hearing none and proceeding forward. Bollinger Park lease. Has everybody had a chance to digest the information sent over by the Parks and Rec Director? I know we had a brief conversation back in probably May of this year. It was very brief at council that this might be something that was going to get brought up.
Well, my big thing right now is the fact that basically we haven't been within the rules of the lease from the beginning. So that's at least that's what I was hearing earlier. That seems like fairly clear language to me.
Feel free to come up.
But
I took that as substance to the property, including manure and sludge, except commercial fertilizer.
As I
Maybe
say,
It should have said herbicides, pesticides,
But it
including.
says the word any. I mean, I have a contract that I drafted for my property, and it's much more comprehensive than this. I don't disagree that we could have spent more time defining it, but it literally says any.
Believe me, if I would have,
Except for commercial fertilizer. And we're okay with exploring other things, we just have to get permission from
yeah,
the
I
landlord.
just, believe me, if I knew it was in there like that, I would have, because I work with Jim Wheatbrick, I've worked with Henry Hine, and Lorena.
And I'm gonna,
I knew it wasn't, I mean, it just didn't jump out at me.
Yeah.
And
and I know again some of the information sent over to council. Part of the problem is that this is even what's being used is in contradiction with what we're trying to use for the park's goals. And not only that, it's again the complaints that we're getting from the residents in the area as far as what's being used.
So what have we done,
it
what have we
wasn't-
done, because I mean, you are in default based on this contract, regardless of the level of understanding you may have had, you are in default. What have we done to remedy the default?
Well, Lorena had sent an email saying that we need all 10 years. I don't have 10 years of the chemicals that were applied. By the state of Maryland only requires me to carry 2 years. Pennsylvania, which the commercial applicators out of Pennsylvania, he had 3 years. So he was able to show 4 years, but I can't go back all 10 years. And besides that, if there was going to be an issue with, I don't know, somebody had said we're concerned about somebody's health, it would have shown up in the first 4 years, and not if it was something that was applied 10 years ago, 10 years is a long
I
time.
mean,
10, 11
even the
years.
federal government only makes you keep records for like 6 years on certain things.
The way my company does it, it's 7, but we hold it for 3 more years just in
Just
case
for
something.
surety, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
I will-
they
I
destroy
will
the
say-
records after 4 years.
I will say the issue again that we're experiencing is my understanding is again we had notified previously that hey, you need to notify us before you do this stuff again, and then this came around this time and it was used again before we had basically written that hey, yeah, you're good to do it, and then that resulted in the complaints that we had that then led to another MD investigation that essentially led us to the problem that we're facing, which is we have residents not residents from Taneytown, but again, people in that area that are basically saying, we believe we're being affected by this. Our lease with you essentially says you will notify us before you do any kind of spraying, and we'll give you permission on that, if we
did.
believe you can.
I
And
notified Lorena.
and again, this is, I think,
Called you
where,
on the 13th. Called me back, and I talked to Jim. I said, Jim, go back and listen to the conversation we had, because when I call in, it says the conversations are recorded. He said, did she call you or do you call in? I said, I called her and she called me back. He goes, well, that's the problem. We can't.
Even if she gave you verbal, it's
She gave me
contractually
verbal.
that she
Well,
has to give it to you in
and
writing.
this was new to me. I said, Lorena, what do you want to do? I use a certified agronomist, okay? I said, I don't spray it. I could spray it. I'm licensed to spray myself, but I've never sprayed that property.
Our contract's with you, not with the third
Exactly.
party.
Well, anyway, and I told her, I said, what do you want to do? Sit down with my agronomist? So he's a certified agronomist. I said, he goes out and scouts. He comes up with a solution of how to manage the issues. And I said, you want to make a list? You want me to send you a list? And she's like, I don't know. I get it. I get it. We didn't hear anything back from the complainant, so I guess go ahead and spray. That's what she told me.
that's fine.
May I make a remark or two?
1 second,
Yeah, I just want to state, my recollection of that conversation was have them send me what you want to apply, and we'll go from there. And then I didn't get anything from AgCom, from Tony or anybody, and it dropped off the radar until we got the phone calls from the residents on the 17th.
The date we sprayed.
Right, which was the spraying. And that's when I got, whatever time it was, 7 o'clock at night or whatever, got off the phone with them and emailed you I need to know what was sprayed.
Which she responded right away.
Right, yes, and we
But-
got that information, and then again, as we've
I
stated
would have
before.
heard you say, send me the information tomorrow, I would have sent it to you. I'm not that type of person to go around you all, believe me. I follow the rules, okay? Obviously, I didn't see this where it said substance, any substance. I believe it should have said any herbicides or pesticides.
I think the idea on the city's end is that we want to be notified of anything that's out there for a liability portion. And again, that's kind of where on the administrative end is our worry is liability.
I get that, yeah. Believe me, I mean, I should have, well, anyway, thinking back, I should have just emailed you and responded that way back. and
Right,
forth.
yeah.
Believe me, I would have sent you the information because I called Tony and said, go ahead, she gave me the green, because I had to wait almost 2 weeks to spray that. Because everything else had already been sprayed by April 1st. And when I came here to pay the bill, or pay the rent, they said you were on.
When you say everything else had been sprayed by April 1st, do you mean your other
other
farmlands?
property.
Okay,
Yes,
all
correct.
right, just want to
'Cause
clarify that.
When I do
Okay.
hay ground, I want it sprayed by April 1st. And when I came in to pay the rent, I
Right.
said, is Lorena in? No,
Right.
she's on medical leave. And and that's when I put a couple calls in. I called the next week and she said, well, no, you're still out.
Right.
So I still waited to talk to you before I had them do any spraying.
I'm going to interrupt y'all for a minute, Councilmember McCarron.
I just want to say this whole discussion about the chemicals that are going on, all the chemicals that were in the report are benign chemicals that have been around for years and years and years. I spent 35 years working for Southern States in a supervisory position. And this has come up many times in many different areas in my experience. The chemicals that were put down are when used according to directions, which a licensed applicator has to follow, are completely harmless.
Right.
We're letting a bunch of people who know nothing about agriculture or pesticides or weed control dictate the policies of a man whose livelihood depends on a proper crop.
Correct. And that's not the issue. The issue is, and as MDA, because we wanted documentation from MDA to prove to the residents that whether there was a violation on the chemical application or not. MDA on May 5th, the inspector, as I stated in the email, did not find any violations. We're still waiting on the report from MDA. It's taking forever.
I mean, I think the family was in the right
Maryland
to be
has a right to
concerned.
Right.
farm law. That's why-
Exactly, and that's all, what I also put in the email is that all of the Fringer Road residents should have, when they purchased that property, signed the acknowledgement of the Maryland right to farm law. So that's not the issue. The issue isn't the chemicals themselves, the safety of the chemicals, or any violations of the chemicals, which we know from MDA did not occur. The issue is Section 5 of the lease. So that's what's before you tonight. What do you want to do about that? The other thing too, now that we have developed that park, and this is something that I have talked to Mr. Clark about as well, we do have the pollinator meadow there, that we're trying to foster the pollinators, of course. And then Mr. Morningstar, another resident on Fringer Road, trying to kickstart his beekeeping hobby and purchased a couple of hives that he reported. Again, I can't verify this, but he reported that those hives died within a week of spring 2025 application of chemicals, I believe. But I don't know. There's no way to test that. That's spring of 2025. Who knows?
The other issue maybe stems from the beginning of Bollinger Park, and many of the residents along Fringer Road were adamant in their objection
Resistant.
to the park.
Correct.
Consider if there hadn't been a park there and it had been open farmland anyway, who would they go to then?
Right.
The point is that this is much ado about nothing, quite frankly. The man ought to be able now to treat his hayfield the way it's recommended the Cooperative Extension Service recommends it be treated.
That's your decision. Well, that's your decision. And if that's your decision, then the lease
Without regard to
language
the
needs to be
opinion of
updated.
the
And this
residents.
is,
What difference does it make what
What-
the residents object to it? Why is that important?
what I will say is again, the actual question before council is whether the contract is in the best interest of the city to continue, given the issues that have been experienced regarding the contract. That is the question for council. Because that is a consideration council should be making is, again, whether it is in the best interest of the city and whether it is the best interest of the residents of Taneytown. So again, regardless of, what all is happening out there, we do have a violation of the contract. We have had issues with the contract over years. Again, this isn't the first year we've had complaints. This isn't the second year we've had complaints. And I'll say on the administrative side, the worry is liability.
What
And
were the
again,
other, sorry, what were the other complaints? You said you've had numerous complaints.
Again, it'd be the year 25, bees dying, other issues experienced in the area
That was last year.
after spraying, essentially, yes. And then this year, that'd be,
Located in relation?
Morningstar is the brick house as you're coming in on the easement to get back to the
Where the
field.
pool is on the left?
Yes, on the left, that brick house there. I think he said he had them in the back. Regardless, he didn't bring that to my attention until April, late April of this year, of 26.
Yeah, it could be completely unrelated too.
Right, and I don't know. Like I said,
I don't
the
disagree
hives
either.
dying off occurred over a year ago, so there's no,
Something in Beehive that killed them off.
we don't know. I mean, there's no way to test it,
So we can't
it's
really
already
use
been
that as-
disposed of, that's just
well, it's not even
a report.
it's not even necessarily examples you use. Again,
That's another thing. The chemicals that are used are contact chemicals designed to attack particular types of weeds, which means that there's no residual effect. So there's nothing that's going to stay in the ground. There's nothing that's going to get into the groundwater. It's going to touch the targeted weed and kill it. That's what it's designed for, and then go away.
Guy that, with MDA had told Tony, he said, there's no way those chemicals could get down in that water, in that well. He said, there's more of a chance of septic getting over into the well.
Correct,
Well, I
that
mean,
is true. There is a
regardless of
concern
whether
for
the
that,
chemicals
but
are harmful or
regardless.
not, it could be anthrax. That's not what we're here for. We're here to determine
But
whether
anyway,
the leases, we can continue on.
I just don't feel that the lease was properly spelled out. I think it should have been spelled out better than just.
Why did you agree to the contract?
yeah, I would say I think the contracts.
I don't
the contract
disagree
is
with what you're
spelled out.
saying, but you did agree to it, regardless of what you're pointing up right now. I mean, it's safe to say we've spent probably more city resources than we've covered from
And
this
this is kind of the issue, and that's why I bring it to council, is that council needs to decide whether
It's
it's in the
hard to-
best
hard to
interest
predict.
of Taneytown to continue.
So what are you gonna do if you don't rent it out to me? You just gonna rotary mow it? And you're just gonna pay one of your guys to sit there and mow for a week? They take forever to mow where those trees are. It'd take almost 3 or 4 days to mow in there. So mowing 22 acres is gonna take you a little while with your equipment, unless you get somebody else to mow it, but then that's gonna cost you, but
I think it would just be left fallow and maybe just
then you're gonna have
have,
noxious weeds.
right, well,
Canadian
we would
thistles
have
and-
one of the public works guys probably go around, take a pass or two on the perimeter, and that's it. But the majority of the acreage left there, the 19.25, would just be fallow.
Said Canadian thistles,
Yeah.
all kinds of different noxious weeds.
What do you want the city to do, and what's your proposal?
Can we rewrite the line in there where it says any substance, take the substance out and put in
Well, but it
herbicides or
sounds like you
chemicals?
have an updated understanding of your duties and responsibilities. So what's the point of rewriting it?
Can we follow it as it is now going forward?
Yeah, we could. Wouldn't have to rewrite it. And
Yeah,
then
at that
I'll
point,
do
it's
everything in
not a
email
lease rewrite.
Through
Correct,
Lorena.
right.
And that way you get, if we just do what's in the lease at this point, that covers everything.
Right. My suggestion would be if you want to retain the lease, then 2 weeks prior to your desired application date, email me
Which
or
can
have.
be before April 1st?
Right, yes. 2 weeks prior to your desired application date, either you or get the information from Tony from AdCom, send me the list of what you want to apply, and then that'll be reviewed for.
We'll send that to NBA, they'll review it, give you the green light, you call me or email me.
We would have to email you back,
Yeah.
right, because that's where that
Yeah,
express
yeah.
written
Yeah, all of
authorization
this
comes
needs to be
in.
in writing moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because there's too much he said, she said, and
Yeah,
nobody.
'cause
Exactly, which makes it a lot easier for when Public Information Act requests are submitted, because then it's just a matter of our clerk just gathering the emails, the written documentation, and providing to the requesters.
Yeah, because I mean, personally, yeah, I'd rather see it be used than not used. And I think that is a better use for the town
Kind of keeps it
on
cleaned
that,
up and it doesn't.
on that land. But we need to be able to, to document these
Yeah,
things
sure.
so
I
that when residents come up and are asking about it, that we've got the answers for it.
Believe me, if I'd have picked up on that, I'd have been giving information to you from day one. Because I don't, I like following the rules, but anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I'm also kind of where Harry's at. If I'd rather a piece of land be used for productive ends than be left fallow. So unless and until there's a plan for the land, I'd rather it be used towards a productive end. So yeah, I second Harry's point on that.
I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Clark. If the chemicals presented are not acceptable and we deny authorization for application, how is that going to affect you?
well, as I told you on the phone, I'm in the horse hay business. So,
It's got to be prime. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Basically, it's going to be about the same chemicals I have been using. So there has been no violation. It's basically 2,4-D dicamba, like a sticker or spreader, so.
Right.
And
I
they
do.
were approved, like, I know where you're getting at, but,
Chemicals that he used on those fields are what a homeowner would use around their house to control the same type of weeds.
Right.
Barbarol is an insecticide.
and
Right.
they would probably put more on versus what commercial applicators are putting on. But
And I do want to state that when I went out on May 5th with the MDA inspector at the one residence on Fringer Road, there was a koi pond in the backyard, and that was located closer to their house than it was to our property line in the agricultural field. And it was a shallow koi pond, and as soon as the inspector and I walked back there, and he saw that, and he said, if there had been any danger or overspray or, improper chemicals used, they would be dead.
very
These
sensitive
fish
fish.
would be dead. So right away, he said, that's a sign to me right there, because we hadn't even made it to the wellhead, the well cap at that point. Now, how the chemicals affect pollinators, I don't know.
I mean, once again, this is a contract thing, not.
Right,
yeah, so
exactly,
That's kind of my
right,
opinion.
That's what our
Yeah.
scope is just the contract.
right.
The scope is whether
Yeah.
council wants to continue the contract even on the breach. If council wants to, then they can.
You have very favorable language with term 14 about how to remedy a default. It doesn't just say you immediately get penalized. It says you need to attempt to remedy the default. So that is very nice language to put in a contract. So it kind of depends on if we feel like that remedy is sufficient to satisfy the contract.
How long do these lease agreements last?
One thing that.
They're
probably-
5-year terms.
5-year term, so they're not like, okay.
3 years left.
One thing that probably could solve the question about what if we reject a chemical, is have some kind of clause in there where if once the list of chemicals is submitted, have it looked at by an agronomist and define what they do and how long the chemicals last and whatsoever. I mean, I don't know how we would make a decision, well, I don't like that chemical, it's got a.
Well, no,
funny name or what.
he uses an agronomist already for application. He's been using AgCom Incorporated for years, so they are a fully licensed agronomist anyway. So, I mean, we could consult with, I mean, if we wanted to consult with, we had a question about something, and rather than Googling it, we could just consult with an agricultural extension office or
I've
something.
got a hard time grasping
You're looking for, that kind of
what would
verification.
qualify us for turning down a chemical.
We don't have that saying we don't have to even have a reason. We can just say
Yeah,
we
you can
don't
just
want
turn
to
down
use
a chemical.
But that's a good
That's a good thing.
situation to bring up during the next contract where we can add and make it more expansive. Right now, we can deny it just because we don't like the name of the chemical. I mean, there's nothing that says.
Yeah, it
That's
says
the point I'm trying to
which permission can be withheld at
mean,
landlord's
it's just
discretion.
arbitrary.
Just discretion.
So I don't disagree. You're making a fantastic point, and that
Right,
would be
yes,
a benefit.
indeed.
But that's not how the current contract
Well, I guess
is.
my question would be benefit to who, though? Because again, we work for the city of Taneytown. So that's the question. Just again, to remind council, city of Taneytown, especially for contracts.
Would you send that list of chemicals off to MBA and have them review it?
I mean,
Or are you gonna take?
we could, or like I said, I mean, various, the state agricultural extension offices, things like that, that those resources are available for free. But we could just run it, by them. If it's the same,
It's
they're
gonna be-
usually the
Yeah, I was gonna
same.
say,
I
if
mean,
it's the same, then
based,
it's-
based on the records obtained from AgCom for the past 3 years, which is the extent of what they've kept, it's all been the same. The dicamba, carbaryl, spreader, et cetera, in the spring, and then Roundup in the fall.
I mean, my solution for remedy would just be the cost it incurred us to even spend time. That would be my way, I would say, and then we can move along like everything else is good. You understand it now. There hasn't been any concern, but once again, that's separate from the contract. I mean, that would be my recommendation, is just whatever reasonable cost that the city incurred by having to deal with this would be your way to remedy. But I mean, it's going to be the
Staff-
body of council.
Staff time's the biggest thing.
Yeah, staff time. But what that is, I don't know, and
Again, I guess my question to council is continuation of contract till end of term of contract? Does anybody, that seems to be where
No,
council's
all
leaning.
individual
I was gonna say,
contracts.
does it require a motion? Because I'll throw one out.
What's the end of the term?
I'll take a motion on it.
I make a
Motion
motion, we
continuation.
continue the contract
That's-
per the wording of the contract, assuming that everything is fulfilled from here on out. And then we can look at language at the end of the 5-year term.
Okay.
Okay.
Got a second? Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries.
Alrighty. Thank you.
staff time.
I don't.
Yeah, that's all I wanted
don't-
was staff time
I
compensated.
don't disagree with you.
I think it's gonna be too nebulous to try and
It
figure
really
out.
probably would be.
Hey, would, I mean, you're gonna spend staff time figuring out.
Yeah,
Staff
you gotta
time
spend
is
staff time figuring out the staff time.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
But
Not
again,
worth
I think you know what I always.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna,
think
it's where, he's a farmer, man. We live in a farming area. Come on. I mean, you gotta.
Okay, I am proceeding forward to Copperfield Storm Drain. Oh, we still got.
Have reports and be done after this.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if my question before we did that vote was answered, but what's the end of the term on that?
2030, if
Yeah, it's 3 years left.
I'm remembering correctly. Okay, so we have I'm looking at the right thing.
Copperfield
Yeah,
Storm
I am.
Room.
Jim, are you looking for approval on this? Like motion to approve contract, I'm assuming? Is that what you're looking for tonight?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Looking-
for those that Kevin included in your packet.
Yeah. Does council have any questions?
There are more areas we need to do, but these will use up most of our stormwater management budget for this year.
Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns by council?
I mean, it kind of is what it is. It's,
Yeah, I mean, that being said, looking for a motion from council.
Make a motion to approve the contract for Copperfield Storm Drain.
Looking for a second?
second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have council member reports, starting with council member Kollenach.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
was
to pull it up.
Whatever.
Just pick a new
It's
way
whatever.
of saying his
It's
last
whatever
name
comes
like
out. It's
every
whatever
meeting.
comes out of my mouth.
I'm surprised his last name's not cauliflower at some point.
All right, cool. So adult tennis clinic concluded. Beginner pickleball clinic began on August 12th. There was the family fun day and book bag giveaway on Saturday, July 25th. Memorial Park went well. The event had free pony rides, games, a bounce house, face painting, live music by Hickory Wind, and free book bags and school supplies with food trucks and hands-on purchases. We also had Operation Pause for Homes present, and almost all of their dogs and cats they had there were adopted for the day. Many thanks to the National Pike Mental Health Trauma Center for providing the book bags. They will also be at the upcoming Harvest Festival with free hygiene products. And on the Harvest Festival, that's going to be held on Sunday, September 26th from 11 to 3 at Memorial Park with free pony rides, games, bounce houses, face painting, live music by Cross-Eyed Cat, food trucks on hand for purchases, and the aforementioned free giveaway of products. Vendor registrations are still being accepted until September 8th. Due to limited funding for Parks and Rec and knowing we're going to be facing 2 playground replacements next year at both Flickinger Park and Roberts Mill Park, we went through our roster and cut several events and programs, saving about $20,000 in doing so. The funding is going to go towards the playground replacements. For those events and programs that remain on the list, we will be seeking sponsorships and donations to help offset costs. And there was no Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting this month. The next meeting will be held September 16th, immediately after the 6:30 p.m. Taneytown Athletic Association meeting. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilmember Miller.
Overall police activity decreased in July with 583 total calls for service compared to 607 in June, representing a decrease of 24 calls. The decline was driven primarily by reductions in TPD-initiated activity and MSP calls, while assist other jurisdiction calls, citizen contacts, and on-view incidents increased. Adult arrests decreased during the month from 21 to 13, while juvenile arrests increased from 1 to 4. Traffic enforcement activity increased across most categories, while non-criminal incidents remained low, with 1 death investigation recorded in July. As far as all active officers completed 2 hours of use of force training on July 1st, July 20th, and July 21st. Officer Dakota Myers assisted the Frederick Police Department Academy with training scenarios and traffic stops. The Taneytown Police Department currently has 1 recruit in this academy, and he's having a blast doing it.
Councilmember Mead.
Mine's fairly simple. We didn't have a planning meeting last week or last month because there wasn't anything going. We are planning to have our regular planning and zoning meeting on the 24th, so next Monday. We are anticipating, I believe, to have another comp plan meeting in September. Because we have passed the 60 days, we have gotten the remarks from everybody that needed to give us remarks. and we need to compile that, and then it will eventually, after all that happens, then it'll come up to council. So yeah, so next meeting is the 24th of August, and then it'll be the 28th for the September meeting, and the 22nd probably, don't completely quote me on it because I don't think it's been set yet, for comp plan meeting.
Sounds good. I love comp plan meetings.
They're my favorite.
Councilmember McCarron?
Nothing too much with Public Works. I'm a little concerned about how we're pumping well 17. I know that Kevin addressed that in his report, and I guess it'll be back to normal, but we're really putting it to the test, I guess, that's what I'm saying. I want to comment that I did have an opportunity to participate in the Nation's Night Out, and the 250th anniversary booth, and really enjoyed the evening. A lot of folks, a lot of stuff going on. Place did a great job in getting the crowds out. I really appreciate that, and I hope you got that cruise, that Explorer cleaned with all those handprints. I saw that, I said, how in the world are they gonna ever clean that up? But anyway, it was a nice night. I didn't have a whole lot of activity at 250th booth. I expected people to be coming, turning in their cards and claiming their coins and things. But I didn't have any of that. Had a few people do that, but I could have counted them on one hand. It's my opinion that we're gonna have some 250th anniversary material left over, since that was the last event to collect stamps. We might want to think about what we want to do with that surplus stuff.
I know in talking with staff and when back at the committee, the idea is some of those events that go into the fall and whatnot is to give up makeup stamps essentially.
Yeah.
So allow people to, again, still kind of make up stamps that they're missing.
The only reason I bring it up is I think we need to, while it's still the 250th anniversary, get this stuff in the hands of as many people as we can. How we do that,
Councilmember Kelly.
September 9th, 7:30 p.m. will be our kickoff meeting. We have it ironed in stone now, so I'm very excited for that. Seeing what.
I thought you were about to give me like a murder report or something.
That's what
You
it
started-
sounded
you
like,
started- you
some
started
cold
that strong.
pace.
Yeah, you started that strong.
Oh, okay. Well, my apologies. Very just data. Moving on. But yeah, no. September 9th, 7:30. Will be a lot of passionate topics. Very excited to work with a lot of very knowledgeable people as it relates to historical focus. So curious to see how that will turn out.
Nice. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add, so I'm going to look for a motion of adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Looking for a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, all.
oh.